and 1 kilogram zinc sulfate will meet the requirement, like those kind of things. So these are 2 or 3 points that I want to make. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nidhi. Dr. A.K. Shukla.
Thank you, Chair. Huge research work has been done on the method, source, rate, and time of fertilizer applications. One of the slide I have shown earlier in my presentation also. We have tested the straight fertilizer. Then in a straight fertilizer, we have tested the sulfate fertilizer, zinc sulfate, copper sulfate, iron sulfate, manganese sulfate, and compared with the chelated materials. And then we have tested with some other oxides, zinc oxides, say for example. And all those results tell that a straight fertilizer, particularly the sulfate fertilizer, are the best source for micronutrient supplementation. There are several reasons. One important thing is that what is the requirement of the micronutrient and at which growth stage micronutrients are needed. Most of the micronutrients are required at 2 growth stages. One is at the initial growth stages, that is for enzyme formation, enzyme activation. Micronutrient play an important role. The second is at the grain filling stage or fruit formation, grain growth stage. So if we go for the customization of those fertilizers, then either we should use it basal applications using of these fertilizer in between as a top dressing may not be such helpful, may not give such research, such result. Although research is needed on this aspect, as Dr. Dwivedi has told. There are some confusion that some fertilizers are making lumps and other things, particularly for zinc sulfate. I would like to tell you that we have tested zinc sulfate heptahydrate, zinc sulfate monohydrate. Both are equally good, and most of the fertilizer companies are manufacturing nowadays zinc sulfate monohydrate rather than heptahydrate. So monohydrate is quite stable. There is no lump formation is there in monohydrate. That is one of the options. Fortification itself has a several questions. If we remember, a last lecture in the FAI workshop has been delivered by Dr. Upendra Kumar. What is uniform distribution of the micronutrients in that particular granules? Whether this is a physical blending, simply mixing, or we are having some chemistry and making reactions, then putting it into the that particular urea granules or superphosphate granules that is there. Otherwise, this is a kind of physical blending. You can use as a blend mixtures at the time of the fertilizer applications. Also, but there is one more question that when we apply all these fertilizer at the basal applications, then the requirement at the initial requirement may be fulfilled, but the later on requirement may not be fulfilled. That is why the project has also recommended the foliar feeding. Now, there are 2 things. One, we are using micronutrient fertilizer to meet the crop requirement. One, there most of the recommendations has come that the fertilizer should be used as a basal application. The second thing has come out recently for the last 3-4 years, that fertilizers we have to fortify our crops in enrichment. There, these customized fertilizer may have some role, fortification kind of thing. But I don't know if you are going to use this urea fertilizer for supply of the, for example, say for rice crop, then 0.5 to 2%. If you fortify with 0.5%, then it will add 1.5 kilogram per hectare per crop. if you do it with the 2% fortification, then it will add 5 kg to 5 to 6 kg per crop. So there may be excess accumulation of the fertilizer, because the urea is essential for all the crops most of the farmers are using. Then question comes, if fortified urea is used as a top dressing, then what is fate of that zinc which is attached with that particular granule? Because if you are adding the fertilizer along with the irrigation, then it is fine. It will go into the soil. If there is no irrigation, you are simply giving the fertilizer urea, top dressing, then what will happen due to moisture in the air? Urea may solubilize, but zinc fertilizer or another fertilizer will remain there. It will not be solubilized to great extent to reach to the rhizosphere, because these fertilizers are not movable or so movable. Moreover, these fertilizers are not much transport to the lower horizons of the soils, mostly remain on the surface. So, movement of these fertilizer is very low except the boron and manganese when the water conditions are there. Hence, I will suggest that huge research is needed. Based on the one experiments or two experiments, we cannot say that we can go as such for the this customization of the fertilizer. Rather, those who have view that it will save the cost of the fertilization, cost of fertilization. I believe that those who are growing crops under nutrient deficient conditions, they can add it along with the basal applications. It will not add any other cost. Second thing, we can advocate the customization with DAP, because farmers are not using urea at the time of initial growth stage. We need huge amount of micronutrient at the initial growth stage for enzyme activation. But farmers, practically, there is a recommendation that we should use 1/3 urea at the time of the basal application. But farmers hardly use. Now there is a practice, farmers apply the DAP, and they don't use the nitrogen fertilizer. Then, as such, the nutrient identified, as Dr. D.V. Singh has shown, that for zinc, boron, fine. But for molybdenum and copper, this we have to think several times. There is a very sporadic deficiency, very, very rare deficiency of molybdenum except in acid soils in India particularly. And the copper deficiency is also confined to only 2% soils. If we combine these together, then with that, and copper is a very sensitive element. The range between the toxicity and deficiency is very narrow. So if we go for the molybdenum customization, copper customizations, so it may lead to several wrong consequences instead of thinking for the better use of the fertilizer. Hence, I believe that some experimentation is needed. Let the fertilizer company come together, and we should check out some experiments and then plan review. Some review is needed. Some research has already been done, and based on those review research, we can further think of how we can proceed for the proper customization. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla.
Thank you, Chairman, distinguished delegates, and my fellow panelists. In the morning, Satish Chandraji told that there is huge gap between the current production level and the requirement. Now, why this gap? Is there any production constants? If yes, the industry people should come out with those constants along with the opportunities and what type of policy they require. At present, for fortification of fertilizers, this Department of Fertilizer is giving 500 and 300. And in one of the meeting, they told that this amount is not sufficient. They told to increase that amount, but Department of Fertilizer reluctant to increase that amount. Then what is to be done? Our fertilizer policy revolves around urea. Now, policy has come that 100% urea should be neem coated. So, if you can give a micronutrient formulation which is compatible to neem oil, then without any additional cost, it can be coated on urea. And the resultant product can be used for production of your customized fertilizer. This is one of the options. So you must come out with any micronutrient formulation, maybe zinc or boron or compatible with neem oil, so that it can be directly coated with urea. Now another problem is why this gap. It may be that there is no demand from the farming community. Why? Maybe there is lack of awareness, or that farmers doesn't know that what element is deficient, what micronutrient in his plot is deficient. But with the introduction of your soil health card scheme, now every farmer know what are the micronutrient deficient in their field. So that problem is over. The general perception of the farming community is the micronutrient is required a very small quantity. Let us forget. They just ignore that and concentrate with NPK fertilizers. So we have to convince them the criteria, what is the meaning of criteria of essentiality. We have to tell them, even if it is required a very small quantity, if it is deficient in your plot, then whatever NPK fertilizers you are applying, you are not going to get the desired response. You are just wasting that. So that type of awareness is required, and Department of Fertilizers, Ministry of Agriculture, ICR, jointly they are now implementing a fertilizer awareness program. It will be launched on 2nd October this year. This is one side. Another thing is, whatever nutrient you apply in the soil, ultimately it is to be available to plants. And for that, your soil must be physically fit and biologically active. That's why we are now telling about the physical health and biological health. And that two health can be improved only by applying the organic manure. And moment you apply organic manure, 2 to 5 tons, your micronutrient problem will be drastically reduced. In the morning session, Shuklaji told whatever manure, if it will be fortified with little amount of micronutrient, that is also another option. So with this, I conclude, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Biswas. Now I invite Dr. Amit Rastogi.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegates, I represent Coromandel International from Hyderabad, and I was told that in the background note that we have to cover 3 aspects of use of fortified fertilizers. One was on the manufacturing, second was on the challenges that we face, the industry faces with fortified fertilizers, and the third aspect was how we are promoting these fortified fertilizers among the farmers. But just before I begin, I have only 4 slides. Just wanted to address some of the issues which have been raised by the previous speakers on the need for fortified fertilizers. So as Coromandel, we do believe that fortified fertilizers play an important role in delivering micronutrients to the farmers. And one of the reasons is the fact that India uses about 18 million tons of complex fertilizers and 30 million tons of urea. there is no better way of delivering micronutrients to each and every farmer in this country than to fortify complex fertilizers and urea. You cannot find a better delivery mechanism than fortification. The second aspect I would like to mention is the fact that we are not talking about addressing all the deficiencies in the soil through fortification. In the morning, Dr. Sequeira did mention that through fortification, we can address at least the uptake of nutrients. The nutrients which are being taken up, which are being mined from the soil, can be replaced through fortification. And also, partly, we can address the nutrient deficiencies in the soil, and over a period of time, these deficiencies will be reduced. And there is a great example. I think a lot of speakers in the today's session talked about Dr. Çakmak's work in Turkey. There is a great case study on how the deficiency of zinc in Anatolia province in Turkey was addressed through the sale of fortified fertilizers. The entire nutrient deficiency, the zinc deficiency in the human population in Anatolia province was able to be addressed through fortification. So I think that's a very great study. We don't have to do a lot of other fundamental studies. We just need to look across other countries which this has been achieved. So having said that, I'll just proceed with the topics that were assigned to us in the background note. So Coromandel Fertilizers is, we have actually got approval for several fortified grades. These are all complex fertilizers. And we are producing 4 such grades. We produce about 100,000 tons of complex fertilizers. We were the first company to apply for fortified fertilizers with 2 micronutrients, which is both zinc and boron. You can see that we have approval for both SSP with zinc and boron and 1435-14 with zinc and boron. We are producing SSP with zinc and boron. Now, what are the challenges? Before I come to the challenges, what has been the manufacturing experience? So one of the things which we find that when we produce fortified fertilizers is that we need to have very precise dosing mechanisms for adding micronutrients. The reason being that we are adding very small quantities to a very large quantity. So we are adding about 5 kgs of zinc and 2 kgs of boron to 1 ton of bulk fertilizer, which has to be mixed extremely well to ensure uniformity in all the granules. And so we need to have very, very accurate dosing systems. And we need to ensure that we don't add in excess, because every kg of zinc that you add in excess, you're actually increasing the cost by 200 rupees per ton of the product. So that is why we ensure that our plants have extremely good systems for dosing and mixing and monitoring the amount of zinc that and boron that we add into our fertilizers. The second aspect is that there was some issue raised whether these are each and every granule will contain the same amount of micronutrients. We find that by ensuring that our manufacturing facilities are properly designed, we can ensure that each and every granule will have the same level of zinc and boron or any other micronutrient that we wish to add. And we find that incorporation of macronutrients into the granule is a better way of adding macronutrients than by coating it. We have tried coating these granules with liquid macronutrients, but we find that this requires an additional drying step after the coating step, which is a challenge for us because it increases the cost of the production, because you have to add the cost of drying. The third aspect is that zinc oxide in India, one of the big challenges is finding zinc oxide with very low heavy metal content. There are no specifications for zinc oxide for use in fertilizer industry, and we had to develop our own specifications. We did a lot of literature search, and we found the right specifications, and we are procuring zinc oxide after doing a lot of work to ensure that they don't contain heavy metals. And another challenge which we find in manufacturing is that when we use borates for manufacturing fortified fertilizers with boron, is the fact that these do have a tendency of releasing the water of hydration during the drying step, which causes problems during granulation. So we had to do a lot of work to modify the process to handle this challenge. So that's regarding the manufacturing part. What are the challenges that we have faced in our experience with fortified fertilizers? One of the challenges is that we need to apply for FCO clearance for each and every grade of fortified fertilizer. We did receive a lot of help from the CFC with Dr. Biswas, who has encouraged us to introduce many new fortified fertilizers. Especially, he has encouraged us to use more than one micronutrient in the fortified grades. But it is a time-consuming process. It takes about 6 months to 1 year to receive an approval for any new fortified grade. Secondly, I mentioned about zinc oxide availability with low heavy metal content. This is a lot of work which we require to identify the right source of zinc oxide with matching our specifications. And obviously, we have to pay extra for such a zinc oxide, which has increased the cost of our product. I mentioned about the granulation problems with borates, with water hydration. We are trying to address this issue through our own R&D work, but that again is a challenge that we are facing. Now, another challenge that we face is that every time we decide to produce a grade of fortified fertilizer, we are asked to take a pollution board clearance from the state authorities, which is very surprising to us because that's treated as a new grade, rather than treating it as an existing grade which has been fortified or which has been improved upon. It is treated like a new grade, and you have to go back to the pollution control board and get a new permission to produce that material in a factory, which is again a time-consuming process. Now we know that SSP fortified with molybdenum is highly suitable for soybean. Soybean is a crop which responds very well to molybdenum, but we do not have any subsidy on molybdenum. Hence, we are not able to add molybdenum to SSP. We are a very large manufacturer of SSP, and states like Madhya Pradesh, where it will be very responsive, soybean will be very responsible to SSP molybdenum, but we do not have any way we can add this molybdenum to SSP. Subsidy for zinc and boron, my colleague Mr. B.B. Singh mentioned that amounts for rupees 500 for zinc, 300 for boron, but these amounts have remained constant for last, I don't know how many years. And the prices have gone up. There's a lot of volatility because both these raw materials are linked to international prices, but we find that there is no adjustment in the subsidy rates to take into account the international prices. Finally, we find that even in SSP with 0.5% zinc, we find that what's available in the market necessarily does not contain 0.5% zinc. As a company, we cannot sell anything less than 0.5, but we find that there are products in the market which do not have 0.5% zinc. So we are forced to compete with those players also. And another requirement is that the government requires that any plant that does fortification has to have an atomic absorption spectrometer to analyze the zinc content. As you know, SSP plants are very small. It's in the small scale sector. It's very difficult to have an AAS in every plant to analyze zinc. So these are the practical problems which an industry faces while introducing fortified fertilizers. Finally, on the promotion aspects, a lot of people talked about, will farmers accept it? Is there awareness level among the farmers? We have conducted a lot of market research on how farmers receive fortified fertilizers. So I've just tried to summarize some of the feedback we have got from the farmers. The farmers know that the cost-benefit ratio is high because the additional cost is about 100 rupees per acre. The yield benefit is 7 to 8, sometimes 10%. But the constraining factor of the farmer is he is willing to pay, or he or she is willing to pay only 50 rupees per bag extra. We have done a lot of research which says that for any value addition you do to an existing grade, the farmer at best is willing to pay about 50 rupees extra for that bag. So it's not the cost-benefit ratio which decides his purchasing decision, it is his ability to pay an extra amount for that value-added product. Now, there is another perception among farmers. When we talk about fortified fertilizers, they feel that when you are adding zinc or boron, it is taking the place of some other nutrient. He's saying, so it's something else is being reduced to accommodate zinc and boron. So we have tried to educate the farmers to say that this is in addition to what we are already giving to you. It is not in place of what we are giving to you. Now, there are a lot of markets in India where micronutrient mixtures dominate. Let's say Maharashtra. It's a big market for micronutrient mixtures. Now, in those markets, to sell a fortified fertilizers containing only one single nutrient is a challenge. Because farmers who are so used to using micronutrient mixtures are not willing to use fortified fertilizers which contain only one or maybe two micronutrients. Finally, my colleague Madhav did mention about the fact that farmers want multi-micronutrients, and one of the reasons is because of labor cost. And they also, another thing is the farmers don't want to calculate that how much boron do I need to use, how much zinc do I need to use, how much of iron do I need to use. They want a one-stop solution. They want to make the life easier while making these decisions. And they want continuity of supplies. We as companies sometimes introduce a grade and sometimes we withdraw it. So there is obviously a lot of confusion in the minds of the farmers. Finally, what have we done to address the requirements of the farmers? We have come up with fortified grades with multiple micronutrients. I mentioned about zinc and boron. We are now trying to do plant tissue testing, leaf testing. We are trying to make it highly portable. We are trying to see whether portable equipment which can quickly analyze zinc in the field to the farmers and convince them that their crop is either deficient or sufficient in zinc. We have identified a separate brand. We have developed a separate brand for fortified fertilizers. We call it Ultra brand. So we have a team of agronomists, 55 agronomists who are promoting our Ultra products. So whenever a farmer sees Ultra, a product called Ultra from the Coromandel, he knows it's a fortified grade. Finally, we have done a lot of trials with Punjab Agricultural University to demonstrate how the nutritive value of the crop is being improved with fortified fertilizers. We find that in wheat, the zinc content went up from about 22 to about 26 to 27 ppm with the use of fortified grades of DAP and SSP. And we are doing some work with agro-processing companies who are in the business of selling atta and potato chips, who have a very large captive base of farmers. So we find that if you are able to convince these agro-processing companies, they would be able to convince the farmers to use these fortified grades. So that is the kind of work that we are doing, and that's what I had to share from our practical experience that we have with fortified fertilizers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stone, for excellent presentation. I would now invite Dr. Naresh Deshmukh.
Respected Chairperson, Dr. Katiyal sir, dignitaries on the dais, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I think whatever I like to submit, some points are already touched upon by Dr. B.B. Singh and Dr. Rastogi, but I will pitch upon those points. Further, I will try to build upon that on behalf of industries, on prospects and challenges on fortification of NP and PK fertilizers. Before I go ahead, friends, I like to draw your attention on Indian agriculture, a mega trend. One of the big mega trend is crop pattern shift towards fruit and vegetable and coarse grains. And it is evident by the data from NHB is that the fruit and vegetable productivity is surpassed the food grain productivity of our country. I think in FY18, the data says fruits and vegetable production is 311 million metric ton against fruit grain production of 284 million metric ton. So friends, this clearly indicates that the growing demand and consumption of fruits and vegetables is growing in this country. And surely, it is also driving, improving the acreages under fruits and vegetables in our country. And surely, friends, due to this mega trend, we believe the scope of balanced nutrition, integrated nutrient management will have much more importance in time to come. Secondly, on Independence Day, Honorable our Prime Minister stated that the way we are using chemical fertilizers and the pesticide, it is damaging our soil health. I think he has rightly touched upon the point which we like to educate every citizen of our country. And from fertilizer industry or agriculture field point of view, it is the time where we should think of fertilizer use efficiency of the fertilizer application which we are doing. Since morning we have seen many presentations around fertilizer use efficiency. We have seen importance of micronutrient, we have seen importance of multi-micronutrient, we have seen importance of this micronutrient in crop productivity and the growth. On behalf of industry friends and the policy what Dr. B.B. Singh has elaborated in his presentation about zinc and boron, and the subsidy what industry is getting is something around 500 rupees per ton for zinc, 300 rupees per ton for boron. But I am a party to that, and if you see the cost of production of such kind of fortification at the rate of 0.5% of zinc or 0.3% of boron, the cost of production could be something around 1500 rupees a ton. I have not considered any additional margin any industry will try to gain out of that. If I remove the subsidy amount and only on the cost basis, the farmer has required to pay around 50 to 70 rupees a bag, 1000 to 1400 rupees a bag. And I find, and when I seen the data post NBS, and our DG, Mr. Satish Chandra, has also pointed out that the fortification sales post NBS, after including these two micronutrients in NBS scheme, the sales were never picked up. I have seen the graph of since last 8-9 years. It was not very consistent or growing. Somewhere it has gone up, somewhere it has gone down. And I can say the share is not more than 1 to 2% of fortified NP/NPK fertilizer sales vis-a-vis of total 8 million or 9 million ton sales of NP/NPK, friends. And why it is happening? Because both industry and the farmers don't able to capture the value out of those fortification of 1 or 2 micronutrients. Largely it is only 1 micronutrient fortified grades are available in out of 26 grades in FCO specification. So on behalf of industry, I know the importance was already set since morning, the importance of this zinc and boron micronutrient. I feel there is a great level of scope of having marketing activity to support such kind of fertilizer to the Indian farmer, not only from the industry or from the agriculture department also, but secondly on behalf of industry, I may take this stand and submit here in this forum in Micronutrient Summit that government should also think how to increase the subsidy of this micronutrient so it is more affordable to the farmers of our country, and the gap between normal NP/NPK and the fortified NP/NPK will be narrowed down, or the gap will be bridged, and farmer will be more inclined to prefer such kind of fertilizers. Second point, friends, the SmartChem Technologies Limited, earlier we are well named as the Deepak Fertilizers and Petrochemicals Corporation Limited. We have set up 2 years back a very good modern NP/NPK manufacturing facility. And since morning I was hearing all speakers' presentations, and I was feeling very happy inside from our internal point of view, from my company point of view, wherein we have already applied and hopefully we may get registration of that grade, and wherein we are bringing the grade NPK fortified with 2 micronutrients and 2 secondary nutrients like magnesium and sulfur. It is NPK, sulfur, magnesium, zinc and boron. And we are working on this project, friends, last 3 years. We have conducted trials with agriculture universities continuously, and we have a ample of thousands of trials, confidential trials with the farmers also. And we have understood that fortification of this multi-micronutrient with NPK is the best way to deliver micronutrient as to the targeted crop, and which will help the composite form of nutrition or integrated form of nutrition will help to improve the crop productivity for our country. Some of the data which can I share with you that when we tried this product with the crop like cotton, wherein we have seen the MCBR, marginal cost benefit ratio, the additional cost of micronutrient and additional gain got from improved productivity or the production, we have observed that against farmer practice, it was the 10-time MCBR, and against RDF of NPK, it was 5 MCBR. So this kind of learnings, with these kinds of demonstrations, we have done for the cotton in the Agriculture University at Dharwad or Rahuri, or Central Cotton Research Station at Nagpur. Same way, we are also laying trials on other kinds of crops like onion, tomatoes, maize, groundnut, and we are examining the application of NPK fertilizers integrated with the micronutrients required by the crops. Only my submission from my company and the industry point of view, that we have understood that there are certain crops where government or the university has recommended more than zinc and boron. We have seen there are certain crops where iron is recommended, magnesium is recommended. So I think there is a time we should think above zinc and boron. Iron and magnesium are the two secondary and micronutrient which should be considered in FCO with tolerance limit, and because it is recommended by the agriculture universities also. And we also like to submit here, friend, is that how we should minimize the registration process of if this such kind of complex fertilizers which will have such kind of micronutrients which is required by the crops, which has been seen since morning by eminent speakers from the universities and the research station. And we have a very classic examples in the case of water soluble, where we have allowed blended water soluble with certain, norms, policies, and any fertilizer industries is now introducing such kind of value-added water soluble fertilizers with micronutrient, with simply, declaring in newspaper and with 30% and 40%, 2 nutrient, 3 nutrient kind of policies. Same way, I like to submit in this forum to the government authority, to the ICR, to the universities, and to the whole industries, dignitaries sitting in this forum, is that if any complex fertilizers, as per the specified in FCO or to the proportion of that grade in the FCO, which will have such kind of micronutrients more than zinc and boron, for example, iron or magnesium, should be quickly been specified or allowed for marketing, commercial marketing, considering benefits, outcome of such kind of fertilizers to the growers of this country and improving their crop productivity. With this, I stop here. Thank you very much.
Respected Chairman, sir, dignitaries on the dais, and my dear friends from the industry. In fact, the topic that has been given to me is micronutrient fertilizers, IFCO experience. In fact, the deliberation that have been going on, it has spurred a lot in my mind on all these aspects, but I will not go in that detail. I will just tell you what IFCO is doing and what IFCO has done and what it is going to do in future also. So micronutrient fertilizers, as per the macro importance that it is getting now these days, for the obvious reason that we are looking for more better health in all the aspects, and micronutrients are part of the health that is being emphasized from different forums, either in terms of millets or the kind of government policy that are coming. I am agronomist, but I am now realizing that I have to be agroecologist too. The way the micronutrients are going to perform in the soil is something that is that has to be looked into totality. The slide that you are looking here in the front is nothing that I'm going to boast about IFCO. Yes, IFCO is there. IFCO is there for 5 decades. And we have been very close to the farmer. That is what I am emphasizing from there. The research and development that has been done by our premier scientists, premier institutions is remarkable. They have given a vision to what agriculture has to be done, how agriculture has to be done, though agriculture is never exact science. It's never exact science. You cannot predict that what's going to happen. It's dependent upon so number of variables are there. But what I am trying to tell you from this slide is that research and development, it has to be backed by policy, right? It has to be taken up to the manufacturing stage. After that, it comes to the market. Marketing side is there. Then the feedback is there. So all this, the industry has to be a part of it. What we are expecting from you is that research and development should be so that it becomes a policy part instantaneously. So it saves us a lot of trouble to be in the whole loop. We should be at the other end. We are near to the farmers. We are getting the feedback from the farmers. Farmers, they are the real people who tell you that whether they are going to accept this thing or not. I remember one of the speakers saying growers. There is a lot of difference between a grower and a farmer. When you're talking about grower, yes, he is intelligent enough to know about the micronutrients, how the micronutrient is going to help his crop, what he is targeting at. So the target that has been, a farmer is fixing the target that he wants to get, then I think that he becomes a grower instantaneously, that he knows what is the difference between a micronutrient, what is the difference between what kind of your complex fertilizers that you're taking. Now these days the company are more focusing on their top line and bottom line. Why? So obvious reason, because subsidy is not going to, it's not the way that it should be. So if the subsidy is the main criteria, then the companies have to go for complex fertilizers, and the fortification, anything that we are seeing now these days is definitely to be a part of the top line and the bottom line also, the way it should board out the companies out of the mess that we all are in. That I think we should be very straightforward in accepting this, that the challenges the industry is facing is certainly, it can come out of only from complex fertilizers, only going for fortification or different kind of other avenues that you are looking at. The challenges faced by Indian agriculture is certainly the soil health is the prima facie, the most important thing that is to be optimally, or it has to be emphasized all through. And we have to look at soil health in different aspects, whether it can be through multi-nutrient deficiencies are there, micronutrient are the part of that soil health program or not. So if that is the reason that we have to bring into more micronutrients, then I think that's very much acceptable to everybody. This is the soil testing services. We all are doing it for aeons. Yes. And the way soil health card is progressing, and I was just checking the data on the soil health card, the 2 cycles that have gone by. And I could see that, yes, there is a little disparity, but somewhere it's near to what has been recommended by the All India Coordinated Research Projects. So it's a good thing that we are moving in the right direction. But the main thing is that we all know that agro-advisory is the key thing which is going to empower us. So agro-advisory, I feel that there are many startups also there. So they will be coming and pitching there what products that they have got. So agro-advisory is the key thing which can tell us whether multi-micronutrient fertilizers are required in that arena or not. Because soil testing services we all are doing, it has to be somewhere, it has to be brought on a forum or podium, or some kind of grid should be there, so that it can help the agro-advisory people to recommend something that is really targeted. The precision farming or targeting approach that we all are focusing at, it can only be visualized, it can only be achieved when we go for the agro-advisory services that are lacking. So here you see that we have been part and parcel of all the research and development efforts, and we have done many things. I will focus on the fortified fertilizers here, and followed by some other aspects. We were the first pioneers. Rio Tinto people are here, and we were the first one who brought out the boron fertilizers. We took trials also. It gave a good result. And later the product was brought under FCO. And we have gone into production also of this product, fortified fertilizers. But it didn't survive. I was hearing you, sir, and it was because of either at the plant level, there was some problem, or the price that we are being paid for that is not sufficient to carry it forward. Now here you see the molybdenum application. Yeah, it's a very costly product, but even the seed producers, they can go for it. So it's a very specific demand that we got from West Bengal State Seed Corporation. and we bought, around 1600 rupees to 2000 rupees a kg. So it's a very costly product, but it gave them the result. So we have to see that where we can pitch in, where down the line, where it can be brought in. So I am again emphasizing on the agro-advisory services, that can be a key part. Here you got we have brought out a zinc sulfate monohydrate plant. We have produced a lot, we have sold a lot, but again the problem is that you don't get the raw material, the right raw material for continuous production. So you have to look for options, whether zinc sulfate can only be applied or there could be analogs or substitutes for zinc sulfate which can have a response like zinc. So why there are possibilities, there all kind of possibilities are there. So why to focus on zinc sulfate only if zinc sulfate cannot be or is not available to the farmers for application? Demand is huge, but are we able to meet it? So why can't we go for any kind of analogs or some kind of substitutions for zinc sulfate? We have gone to production of complex fertilizers fortified with zinc, and 270,000 is a good volume, but we have stopped for the obvious reasons that have been told. This is something that I would like to emphasize upon. We have not mentioned about the zinc solubility bacteria. I don't know if it's there in FCO, if it's giving that efficiency, then why not we talking about? If our Honorable Prime Minister sir is saying that 10 to 25% reduction should be there in chemical fertilizers, from where you're going to meet the 10 to 25%? So what kind of options that are there? So zinc solubilizing bacteria, I think it should be more vociferously told from these podia or these forums. It should be much emphasized that why zinc solubilizing bacteria, is it going to cut the requirement or is going to supplement it in some way or other? We have brought a very unique product called Sagarika, and it was a revelation to us because if you're going for a new thing or new kind of product, so you have to fight internally a lot, whether it's going to work or not. When we were studying agriculture and we were told that it's not exact science, and also if there is a problem, you kindly recommend multi-nutrient mixture. So it will solve all the problem. So are we reaching there to the point that we have to just recommend that it should be a multi-nutrient thing? But then we found that Sagarika is a seaweed extract based product and it has got other benefits apart from the nutrient source it could be. So it's doing wonders, and it is also a source of trace elements, and we are getting a good bottom line also out of this. We have gone for a soil health regeneration program. IFCO was one of the votaries for Save the Soil campaign starting from the year 2009-10 onwards, and we have produced a lot at the farmers field itself, composting, residue management, because this is something that we have to see that whether we are going to increase the cost of production of farmers or we are doing something which can be done at their own and at the farm also. So this is what we have done through the Save the Soil campaign. And this is the new product that we are bringing, and it's a dihydrate polyhalite because all of us are talking about organic and natural farming kind of approach. So it's an organic organomineral and also a source of boron. So hopefully it will be a kind of revelation for the farmers of what they really need. We are confident that maybe some kind of value addition or standalone product is there in FCO also. Our approach over 5 decades have brought us to this thing that we have to work in cohesion. I was talking about agro-advisory services. I really emphasize on agro-advisory services because I feel that that's a missing link, because we are advocating everything, whether it's going to hit, because it all depends upon the marketing channel, whether he needs it or not, whether he's asking questions on that aspect or not, that has to be seen. Soil health mapping national strategy is a wonderful forum for us to bring all the stakeholders on this platform. Maybe startups can do wonders in this arena. The data that has been generating from different sources the government is having, it can be utilized by startups to in fact bring quality to the advisory services. Then quality control should be there. Yes, it's a primary objective. Policies integration. There's too much of policies also. This leads to kind of static. And then fertilizer management, demand, supply, and logistics. Even if there's a demand there, we are not able to supply, or logistic problem is there. We fight at different levels. I think my friends from industry will agree that it's rakes and availability, the material it should be there, warehousing. There are so many aspects that are there, and integration it should also be through innovative product solution. Why we are discarding a product? If a farmer is accepting that product, we should respect his intelligence. He is spending money on a thing, so we must respect if there is some kind of innovative product solution, either it could be from biofertilizer, biostimulants, or even for that reason nanofertilizer, it's a nanotechnology or a fertilizer kind of thing. If there is a solution for the farmer from that aspect also, we should not disown it. And establishing sites of learning, yes, it's there, because we as an industry person, we also find that we are also lacking in our knowledge base now these days. Because so many products are there in the market, whether 14.5% boron, disodium tetraborate should go for foliar or whether for boron, the soil application is the best thing. Yes, it's written there by Dr. M.V. Singh that soil application is the best one. But how categorically he says that is going for soil application is the best one. So we have to mull over these things also. I think the knowledge base of the industry should also be, it needs to be increased and it needs to be more. And knowledge dissemination and training building, it should be the prerogative of the whole the scenario that we are seeing. So on this, I will be coming to the last slide, and it's there that agri-inputs are critical for our higher crop productivity, but the balance and integrated, we have been saying it for long, balance and integrated word. So how we are going to achieve that? So I was listening to you, and you said that retrospect and prospect. So certainly, sir, we have to look at that. And all these measures, it will not only benefit the farmers a lot, but also help attain the soil, animal, plant health in continuum. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks for that. Thank you.
सर कितना टाइम आप डिस्कशन Thank you very much. The session was very productive, I would say, but not necessarily conclusive. In the sense, most of the presenters had a kind of bias, I would say, which was not favoring fortified fertilizers, because the statement on bottlenecks were many and solutions were few. I'm sorry to say that, but that's my understanding. I have listed 9 points. If somebody wants to comment on those, they can comment. I would invite that because we have 15-20 minutes. One is we agreed that value of fortified fertilizers is there. And which ways, how we can justify. In my assessment, it promotes balanced use of fertilizers. It actually is a way forward for precision nutrient management. It actually reduces cost of application because farmer has not to make 2 times application but only 1 time application. And more importantly, it allows fair distribution of the micro amounts of fertilizers. That's possible. And fourth is, which is normally not talked and mentioned, of course, efficiency of the fertilizers, the efficiency of fertilizer nutrient. We are talking only of the efficiency of the fertilizer nutrient, micronutrient, which is being added or which is used for fortification, but not of the fertilizer which is being fortified. Say, for instance, urea, zincated urea, borated urea, other things, particularly zincated urea, I would say. The technology which exists is that urea at the time of planting should be minimum, zinc at the time of planting should be maximum. This is whole dose of zinc should go at the time of planting, whereas as far as urea is concerned, it should be minimum. So we should harness actually this combination to bring the level of zinc sulfate into the urea, which influences the efficiency of nitrogen. Otherwise, efficiency of nitrogen is very low, which is 30% to 35%. So this is normally, and then one more point is that when the efficiency increases, the ecological benefits, they multiply. we should talk about the ecological benefits which are happening as a use of these fertilizers. That was first point. If somebody wants to add to this, we agree, or I will proceed with my second point. Okay, thank you. Second is, should the manufacturing, my question is, should the manufacturing of fortified fertilizers be at the major plant, or should it be decentralized in the production catchments? Like in the irrigated areas, high productivity irrigated areas, it is actually storehouse of many nutrient deficiencies. Zinc being prominent, boron is coming up, manganese is coming up, and if these nutrients are becoming deficient, why not to think of like creating a kind of franchise for manufacture in the catchment areas? You take the finished products there and manufacture as per need over there. And manufacturing process, which many people know, some people don't know, is the compaction, dry granulation. Actually, dry granulation is a complete process which can help in creating a particle or granule which has uniform level of micronutrient in each grain. Because this is done, the first step is homogenization and making fines, and then compaction. And this technology is very simple. This can be either franchised or can be developed as assembly. So my hunch is that if we want to make 2 lakh tons of fertilizers are being manufactured, such a low level which fertilizer manufacturer will do, take that kind of problem. All kinds of issues are there. Why not to take the manufacture at the decentralized basis? That's my second point. Third is the pricing. Pricing is an issue. Farmers want that the price of the premium product or fortified product should not increase more than 50 rupees. That is what you said. But this is where actually the technology transfer or working with the farmers or farmers' mindset need to be changed. This calls for adaptation research. And I suppose we need to approach in a different way, not laying out a demonstration, but working with the farmers. So this is another innovation which one can think of, that you are actually involving farmer in that. He actually sees with his eyes that fortified product is the one which reduces his cost of urea, which reduces his cost of micronutrient fertilizers. Once he sees that, and of course definitely efficiency is high, he will get better productivity, and we can promote it. My fourth point is level of fortification. I have not understood. I actually, Satish Chandraji, when I got your invitation, I was reading about the level of fortification in the Indian scenario. I was not looking at the outside data. And nobody goes beyond 2% of when they are coating. I do not understand how you can do coating of a soluble fertilizer, which is urea, and soluble fertilizer, which is zinc sulfate. So why not to go again back to the fortification, which I am saying about the compaction process. And level of fortification should be such that it meets the requirements of maintenance level needed for the crop, which you mentioned as how much is removed this morning, and that much should be added. So in that only the addition is that we have to take care of the efficiency factor, and once we take care of the efficiency factor, the level comes. Even if we take the element like zinc, which is about removed by the crop not more than 1 kilogram per hectare, even 10-ton crop. And if that is the level, that means it is, if we take the efficiency factor, it comes to 4. If we come to come to 4, and then if it is 4, then if we take heptahydrate, it is 12. And 12, you can see that urea mixed with 12, it will influence both. It will affect the efficiency of zinc, and it will, more importantly, it will affect the efficiency of urea, which will, the product will become much more attractive. Yes. That is other. And then there is need, actually, specific, very specific need for area and crop specific fortification. It cannot be zincated urea everywhere. It cannot be superphosphate, boronated superphosphate. So crop specific and area specific. Somebody mentioned about the use with boron with micronutrient fertilizer, boron. And it's the one, we know it, boron is the element which actually has an influence on the quality of the produce. If it has quality on the produce, the price automatically becomes more. The profit becomes more. So that's the other thing. And the promotion of fortified fertilizer, because this is the one talk you made, I suppose, it's very difficult. I suppose, as I said, it is actually the adaptation research which is more important than the demonstration.